I didn't plan to knock on his door that morning. It was one of those lazy Sundays where everything feels suspended in a soft haze, no alarms, no urgent messages, just the quiet hum of the neighborhood and the steady beat of summer cicadas. I had pulled my bike out of the garage but left it leaning uselessly against the wall, my fingers hesitating on the handlebars. It wasn't the kind of day I wanted to spend alone, so I found myself walking down the narrow street to my friend's house, hands tucked in the pockets of my joggers, rehearsing excuses in my head. Wanted to test the new trail, I might say. Could use a second rider. The truth was simpler. I just wanted to be around him. He wasn't home, his little brother answered, yawning through the screen door, eyes still foggy with sleep. He went out with a couple of friends. Won't be back till later. I forced a casual nod, masking the tiny sting behind my teeth. I had no right to be disappointed. But then, just as I was about to turn, I heard the low sound of a wrench, clicking metal. I glanced toward the open garage and saw his father crouched beside a black motorcycle, sleeves rolled to the elbows, grease smudged across his knuckles. "Looking for him?" he asked without looking up, voice rough but not unkind. "Yeah," I replied, trying not to shift awkwardly. "Just thought we'd ride a bit." He stood up slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. There was something solid in his presence, unease, in the way he moved, unhurried and unbothered, like he belonged to a different rhythm than the rest of us. He had always been the quiet type, the kind who never said much at barbecues, but remembered if you took sugar in your tea. He said something about going up the old ridge trail, he said, tossing the rag on the bench. "If you don't mind some company, I could tag along." I blinked. "You ride?" He gave me a look like the question was ridiculous. "Been riding since I was your age." And just like that, I nodded. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the quiet way he stood there, not pushing, not expecting anything. Or maybe it was that same part of me that had walked over in the first place, looking for something I couldn't quite name. He threw on a faded jacket, climbed on the bike, and then looked over his shoulder. "You coming or what?" I swallowed down a strange knot in my chest and swung my leg over the seat, settling behind him. My arms hovered for a second, unsure. "You'll want to hold on," he said, amusement flickering in his tone. So I did. At first it was just wind in motion, the road unrolling before us in smooth gray ribbons, the trees blurring into smudged green streaks. The heat of the engine buzzed beneath us, and the occasional bump sent us jostling closer than I was ready for. I told myself I was only tense because I wasn't used to being a passenger. But that wasn't entirely true. The way his back moved, under my palms, the way his voice rumbled when he pointed out a bend or a hidden curve in the road, it was grounding in a way that unsettled me. I noticed the cologne lingering faintly on his collar, something musky and warm that I couldn't place but had smelled in their house 100 times. I wasn't supposed to notice things like that, yet I did, and once noticed, they stayed. He slowed near the base of a trailhead and stopped, the bike idling low. "You want to give it a shot?" he asked, tilting his head back slightly. I blinked. "Me, drive? Why not? You said you wanted to learn, right?" I hesitated. The handlebars suddenly looked much more complicated than I remembered. "What if I mess up?" "You will?" he said with a slight smirk. "That's how you learn." He scooted back just a little, his legs grounding the bike steady as he motioned me forward. I shifted reluctantly, feeling his hands guide mine to the right grips. His fingers closed over mine, not tight, just enough to show me control. Throttles. Here. Clutch there. I'll stay behind you, just in case. I could feel him now, his chest at my back, the rise and fall of his breath syncing strangely with my own. It should have been uncomfortable. It wasn't. It felt too easy, too natural, as we rolled forward, wobbly but upright. The wind picked up again, brushing past us like whispers. A few miles in, I stopped noticing the road altogether. because I felt it, something barely there pressing at my back. Not just the weight of him, not just the physical nearness. It was warmer than that, more deliberate. And in that moment, a thought flickered through my mind like a match-catching flame. This ride might take me somewhere I never expected to go. I met his son during a summer much like this one, sunlight slanting lazy over rooftops, and the air thick with heat and boredom. We bonded over late-night gaming marathons, trashy snacks, and mutual hatred of school deadlines. He was the kind of friend who always seemed to be in motion, cracking jokes, kicking gravel with his sneakers, flicking bottle caps at my head. We didn't talk about feelings, just video game scores, half-baked weekend plans, and how annoying siblings could be. But slowly, quietly, I got used to their house, to the way it always smelled faintly of mint and steel clean, cool, grounded, to how his dad would always nod at me from the kitchen when I walked in, eyes kind, even if his face was unreadable. Sometimes he'd be fixing something, pluming wires, an old fan, and I'd catch myself watching, curious. He never said much, but what he did say stuck. I guess that's how it started. Not a crush, not exactly. More like gravity. It wasn't until this summer that I started visiting, even when my friend wasn't around. Not often. Just enough that it didn't feel like coincidence anymore. His dad noticed. He didn't say anything, but I caught the faint smile he gave when I showed up again last week, saying I was just passing by my driveway with your helmet in your hand, he'd said, arching an eyebrow. Guilty, I grinned, trying not to feel like he could read right through me. Still, today was the first time it was just the two of us, for more than a passing moment. Just us, the road, the bike, and his quiet confidence guiding me through every inch of the trail. I wasn't good at it. I stalled twice, overcorrected turns, and at one point nearly toppled us into a ditch. He didn't laugh, just placed a steadying hand on my waist. Riding the bike without a word. You're gripping the clutch like it's going to attack you, he murmured behind me, leaning in. His breath hit the side of my neck, and I froze. Relax. Your hand, he added, low, his fingers gently coaxing mine open. The way he said it, so casual, so focused, shouldn't have made my pulse spike. But it did. After a few miles, we pulled over at a clearing I didn't even know existed. It overlooked a drop of trees, wide and green and endless. He cut the engine, and for a moment, the silence rang louder than the bike ever did. We sat under the shade of a crooked tree, drinking from the water bottle he brought along. You've got potential, he said, unscrewing the cap. Is that your polite way of saying I didn't kill us? He gave a dry chuckle. You've got decent balance. Just need more road time. Muscle memory. Guess I better show up more, I said before I could think. He glanced sideways at me, amused. You already do. We shared a beat of silence. The kind that's not awkward, just full. It felt like something hung in the space between us. Unspoken but understood. I kicked at the dirt. You ever miss it? I asked suddenly. Riding when you were younger, I mean. His expression shifted, softening just a little. Sometimes. Had a close friend back then. We used to ride every weekend, rain or shine. Something in his tone made me look up. You still talk to him? He shook his head. No. Life changes things. I wanted to ask more, but didn't. Instead, I leaned back on my hands, pretending the sun filtering through the leaves wasn't making everything feel surreal, like I wasn't exactly sure where the line was anymore. That's when I realized he hadn't brought a second helmet. He'd just handed me his own without a second thought. Wait, I said, brows furrowing. Should you really be riding without a helmet? He smirked, brushing a hand through his hair. I'll live. Besides, you needed it more. That's reckless, I muttered. So is learning how to ride on a winding mountain trail, he countered, then paused. But you trusted me. I looked at him, and there it was again. That pull, like standing too close to a fire and pretending it's not hot. Something buzzed on his phone, breaking the moment. He glanced down. Ah, your friend finally texted. He's on his way home. Guess that's my cue, I murmured. Suddenly, not in a rush to go back, he noticed. Of course he did. We started the bike again this time. He drove. I sat behind him, arms wrapped loosely around his waist. But somewhere during the ride back, the sun began dipping, and the air turned cooler. Then came the complication. Halfway back, just before we hit the main road, the bike jolted with a shudder and coasted to a stop. He cursed under his breath and swung off to check. Throttle cable snapped, he muttered. I stared at him. That's bad, right? He gave a dry laugh. Let's just say we're walking from here. The sky was already dimming. The ridge trail wasn't near anything. Residential, just open stretches and distant hills. No reception, either. So we walked side by side, his helmet tucked under one arm, the other slung loosely around his waist for support, because his leg had cramped up from riding too long. Should have brought snacks. I joked, trying to lighten the mood. I did, he said, pulling a crumpled protein bar from his jacket. But you already drank all the water. We shared it anyway. We always did. I don't know how it happened, but at some point, our arms brushed, then brushed again, and didn't move apart. I could feel the warmth of his skin through the sleeve of my shirt. His fingers curled just slightly, barely enough to notice, but I did, and when I looked up, I caught him already watching me. Just for a second, eyes darker, thoughtful, not smiling, not teasing, just seeing me. And that's when something shifted. Not loudly, not drastically. Just enough that I knew nothing between us would be the same after today. The sun dipped lower, bleeding warm amber across the sky. Shadows stretched long and lean on the cracked mountain road, and the wind that had once been sharp with freedom, now pressed cold against my skin. We had walked a good 30 minutes since the bike broke down. Every few steps, gravel slipped under my shoes, and I kept catching myself glancing sideways at him, his silhouette strong, sure, and just a bit limping now. You okay? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Yeah, he said through a small breath. Just old knees, reminding me they exist. He tried to wave it off, but I saw it, the way he subtly favored one leg. We stopped near a grove of trees by the roadside. A patch of grass softened the space just off the pavement, and he sat down slowly, stretching his leg out. Let it rest a minute, he murmured. Here, I offered, shrugging off my hoodie and folding it. Use this under your knee. He glanced at me, brow raised. You sure? I nodded. Yeah, it's not like I'm cold or anything. Lie. The evening breeze had taken on a biting edge, and my arms immediately prickled with goosebumps, but I didn't care. He adjusted the hoodie under his knee with a quiet thanks, and we fell into silence again. The kind that settled like dew, silent, everywhere. I sat next to him, not too close, but not far. It was strange how normal it should have felt, yet how heightened everything was. I could hear the faint rustle of wind in the trees, the distant hum of some insects, his breathing, my own heartbeat. So, he said after a beat, his voice softer now, what made you want to learn to ride? It felt like a simple question, but it wasn't. I could have said freedom, adventure, something new, but all I could think about was this moment, this closeness, this pull I hadn't been able to name until recently. I guess I just wanted to feel more in control of where I was going. I said carefully, eyes fixed on the fading line of the horizon. Even if it's slow, even if I mess up. He didn't respond right away, but I felt him turn his head toward me. The weight of his gaze landed on me, like a hand between my shoulder blades, present, unspoken, heavy in a way that made my chest tighten. That's fair, he murmured. Most people don't even realize they're drifting. I glanced over at him. He wasn't smiling now. There was something else on his face, something contemplative, almost sad. I wanted to ask about the friend he mentioned, about the life he'd hinted at, but part of me was scared. Like if I dug too deep, I'd find something I wasn't ready to know, something that made the way I felt about him even harder to ignore. A shiver ran down my spine, and he noticed. "You're freezing," he said, already reaching for the zipper on his jacket. "I'm fine. You're shaking," I said. "I'm before I could finish." He was shrugging out of his jacket and draping it over my shoulders. The warmth of it hit me instantly, along with the scent, that familiar woodsy smell, leather and pine, and something subtly citrus. "Something him?" I froze. "Better?" he asked, his voice quiet. I nodded, afraid my voice might betray me. Then, his hand brushed my arm, barely a touch, but it lingered just long enough to make me forget the chill entirely. My throat went dry. It wasn't just the physical nearness anymore. It was the tension curling beneath it, the things I wanted to say but couldn't. The way his fingers rested near mine on the grass, barely an inch between them, and then his pinky moved subtly, casually closer, until it brushed against mine. My heart stuttered. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. He didn't move his hand away. Neither did I. It should have meant nothing, a brush of skin, an accident, but it didn't feel accidental. It felt like permission. My mind raced. Does he know? Does he feel it too? And if he does, what does that even mean? "Can I ask you something?" I said, voice low, breaking the stillness. He looked over. "Yeah. Have you ever felt something unexpected? About someone you didn't think you would?" His eyes met mine. The silence stretched, but not awkwardly, like he was weighing each word before letting it go. "Yeah," he said finally. "I have." I swallowed hard. My chest was a war zone, hope and fear colliding in waves. "What did you do about it?" He looked away then, eyes scanning the trees. When he answered, his voice was distant. "I buried it. Told myself it wasn't real." "Did that work?" He shook his head. "Not for long." A breeze stirred between us, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. I shifted my hand, just enough so that our fingers touched fully now. Not hidden, not accidental. He didn't pull away, but he didn't look at me either. His jaw tensed slightly. I could feel the way his body stilled, like a pause that might never end. "You're not saying anything," I whispered. "I don't know what to say." "Say what you're thinking," I said, barely louder than the wind. He finally turned, eyes searching mine. "I'm thinking, this is complicated, and I don't want to hurt you. You're not. You could get hurt. I'm not your age. He stopped himself, shaking his head. "I'm not what you're supposed to want, but I do," I said. There it was. My voice didn't shake. My hands did. "I know, it's confusing," I added, quickly, "but I didn't plan this. I didn't walk into your house hoping this would happen. I just kept coming back, and I didn't know why until now." His gaze flicked to our joined hands. "I noticed," he said quietly. "I noticed more than I should have." My chest tightened. "You never said anything," I whispered. "I thought it was just me," he replied. "I thought I was imagining it." We sat there, locked in something deeper than words. It wasn't a confession in the traditional sense, but it felt like one. Every inch of air between us buzzed with all the things we'd been too afraid to say out loud. The sky above had shifted into deeper shades of blue, stars flickering in, one by one, and in that dim glow, I saw the smallest shift in his expressions, something breaking past the caution. His thumb moved, gently tracing along my knuckle. Not a kiss, not yet, but something just as intimate. "I think," he said, voice a hush. "We need to talk about this properly." "I want to," I breathed. "Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," I echoed. But even as I said it, I didn't move my hand from his. Neither did he. We didn't have all the answers. But tonight, for the first time, we had stopped pretending there wasn't a question, and that was enough. He offered to walk me the rest of the way home, even though his leg was still aching. I told him I was fine, but we both knew that wasn't really what either of us meant. The walk back was quiet, not in a cold way, just thoughtful. Every few steps, our hands brushed again. Not like before, not shy or accidental, just aware. Like our bodies hadn't caught up to what our minds now understood. His jacket still hung over my shoulders, warming me even though the night had grown mild. I hadn't taken it off. Maybe part of me didn't want to let go of something that had touched him, something that smelled like him. We reached the corner near my house, the place where the streetlight flickered and the road split. He paused, there, hands in his pockets, the glow of amber light softening the tired lines in his face. "I should go," he said. "Do you want to?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked at me, really looked at me. "I don't know," he said, quietly. "I'm not sure what I want anymore." I swallowed hard, heart thudding in my chest. "Can we talk?" I asked. "Not tomorrow, not later, now." He hesitated, glancing around like he was checking the sky, or maybe just stalling for time. Then, with a resigned breath, he nodded. "All right." We sat on the low stone wall in front of my place, the one half covered in moss and chipped cement. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. I mirrored him, close, but not touching. The air between us hummed. "I don't know where to start," I admitted. "Try the middle," he said. So I did. I think I knew before today. I just didn't want to name it, because naming it would make it real, and if it was real, then it could be broken. His gaze didn't waver. He was quiet, waiting, not rushing me. "I like you," I said finally. More than I should, more than makes sense. His breath hitched, just a little. His hands curled slightly between his knees. I tried to pretend it was nothing. I continued, that I was just drawn to you because you were calm, because you made me feel safe. But it's more than that. I think it's been more than that for a while. I looked down at my hands, and I know it's complicated. I know this isn't easy. I just couldn't keep pretending it wasn't there. Silence again. Not cold. Just ... full dot. Then he spoke. "I noticed," he said, voice hoarse. God, I noticed. But I didn't let myself believe it. Because what would it mean if I did? I looked up, and the weight in his eyes floored me. "You're young," he said, "and I kept thinking you'll move on. You'll find someone your age, someone who fits. But that's not what I want," I said, leaning forward. "Don't you get it? I don't want someone else. I want you. Not because you're safe, not because it's a phase, but because I feel more like myself when I'm with you." He inhaled, shaky. "I haven't felt this kind of connection in years," he admitted, like it was painful. I got used to the silence, to being alone. I told myself I was past all that. Then you kept showing up. "I didn't mean to. I'm glad you did." My breath caught. He looked at me again, and this time, it wasn't guarded. "I'd find myself waiting for the sound of your steps outside," he confessed. "Noticing when you didn't come by. Watching the door. Listening for your voice when you laughed with my son in the kitchen. And then I started wondering what it meant. What you meant. I hated myself for thinking about it. Why? Because it scared me. Because I'm supposed to know better. Because you shouldn't have to carry the weight of my feelings. But damn it, I couldn't help it." I reached out tentatively, slowly unrested my fingers on his knee. "You're not alone in this," I whispered. He looked down at my hand, and for the first time since we sat down, he reached for it, held it, tight, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. "I've tried to be careful," he said. "I've tried to do the right thing. But you sitting behind me today, your arms around MIT felt like something I've been missing. Something I didn't even know I needed." I felt tears prick behind my eyes, sharp and sudden. "I've wanted to touch you for weeks," I admitted. Not in a creepy way, just to be close. to see if it felt as real outside as it does inside my head. He turned, fully now, his hand still holding mine, and then, with the gentlest movement like he was giving me time to pull away, he leaned in. Our foreheads touched first. Just a brush. His breath hitched. Mine held. And then, slowly, he tilted closer. His nose grazed. Mine. My lips parted, a second before his met them. The kiss wasn't hurried. It wasn't fiery. It was soft. Careful, like we were both afraid it might shatter if we pushed too hard. But God, it was real. It was real. His hand cupped the side of my neck, warm and steady. My fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt. When we pulled back, we didn't let go. We just stayed there, foreheads resting, breath mingling. "You okay?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. I nodded, smiling through the tightness in my throat. "Yeah, more than okay." "Good," he said, "because this scares the hell out of me." "Me too," I whispered, "but I don't want to walk away from it." "Then don't." We sat like that until the streetlight above us flickered, once, then again, casting everything in a soft gold hue. His jacket still hung over my shoulders. His hand was still wrapped in mine. I knew this was just the beginning, that conversations would come, hard ones, that there'd be moments we'd question, moments we'd second guess. But right now, we were two people on the edge of something fragile and brave and beautiful, and we weren't pretending anymore. We didn't speak for a few minutes after the kiss. We didn't need to. He kept his hand around mine, thumb tracing small, absent circles across my knuckles like it was instinct-like. He'd been waiting to do it for far longer than either of us would admit. My head leaned into his shoulder, and he didn't move away. If anything, he leaned in a little closer. "Is this real?" I murmured, the question falling out before I could stop it. He gave a soft chuckle, low in his chest. "Feels like it." "Good," I said, a breath of laughter leaving me. "Because if I wake up tomorrow and you're back to fixing engines, like nothing happened, I'm going to be pretty pissed." "Noted," he said, smirking. "Though in my defense, I am good at fixing engines." I nudged him with my elbow. "You're terrible at avoiding feelings, though." "Only the ones that matter," he said, a little too honest. I turned toward him, curious. "You really thought I wouldn't feel this too?" He hesitated. "You're young. You've got your whole life ahead of you." Part of me kept thinking, don't be selfish. Let him go. Let him figure things out, without me confusing him. "You weren't confusing me," I said. "If anything, you made things clearer." The streetlight above us flickered again, painting his face in warm gold, shadows under his eyes deeper now, but softer. He looked vulnerable, not broken, not guarded, just real. "I don't know what this looks like yet," I admitted, "like, outside of tonight." "Neither do I," he said, brushing a hand through his hair. "We'll probably get looks, questions. Your friend might." "My friend has the emotional intelligence of a brick wall," I said dryly. "He probably won't notice anything until I marry you in front of him." He laughed loud, genuine, head tipped back slightly. I loved the way that sounded. Like freedom, like joy he hadn't let himself feel in a long time. "Your trouble," he said, shaking his head. "Maybe," I said, leaning a little closer, voice dropping. "But I'm your trouble now." He looked at me, then really looked. No teasing, no hesitation. Just this soft, unspoken awe. "I think I like the sound of that," he said quietly. I rested my head on his shoulder again, and he wrapped his arm around me this time, fully, comfortably, like we'd already done this 100 times. "How do we even begin explaining this?" I asked after a moment. "We don't owe anyone an explanation yet," he said. "We take it one step at a time. Let it grow where it wants to grow. We don't rush it. We don't box it in." That's a very poetic way of saying we wing it, I teased. He squeezed my shoulder. "Exactly." The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was grounding. My heartbeat had finally slowed. But not because the moment was over, because I felt held inside it. Secure. I don't want to mess this up, I admitted. I've never done anything like this with anyone I know, he said, voice softer now. And that's why we go slow. This doesn't have to be a secret, but it doesn't have to be a declaration either. It's ours first, then the world's. I like that, I whispered. Ours first. The breeze had picked up again, tugging softly at the edge of his shirt. I tucked his jacket tighter around me. He looked down at me, then brushed a hand through my hair gently like it was something he hadn't allowed himself to do before. You're really not cold anymore? He asked, voice playful again. I grinned. No, your emotional warmth saved me, he groaned. God, you're dramatic. You like it. He didn't deny it, just pulled me closer until I was half against him, half tucked into his side. The sound of a distant car pulled us both back a little, not with panic, just awareness. It was late. The neighborhood had started to quiet. Lights off in the windows. The air smelled like dew and grass and something new. I should probably go inside before your son sends a search party, I joked. Let him, he said. We earned this moment. I stood up, reluctant, but he didn't let go of my hand just yet. We lingered under the flickering light, fingers still linked. Like neither of us was quite ready to leave whatever magic we'd found out here. You'll text me? I asked. I'll do more than text, he said, smiling. I'll call. I'll show up. I'll prove I meant everything I said tonight. Okay, I whispered. Then I'll be waiting. I started to turn, then paused. Can I kiss you? Again. He stepped in, hand sliding gently to my waist. I thought you'd never ask. This time, I kissed him first, and this time, neither of us pulled away. It's been a week since that night, a week since the kiss, since the confession, since everything shifted without the world even noticing. And yet everything did shift. The colors feel warmer, the silence less empty, and every message from him still makes my heart do that ridiculous flip. Like I'm 15 again and hoping someone will notice me. Only now, someone does. Tonight, we're sitting on his porch. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet evening, 2 mugs of tea, and the familiar creak of the wooden steps beneath us. The summer air smells like lavender and cut grass. Cicadas hum somewhere in the background. The world, for once, is still. He leans his shoulder against mine, and I don't move. I don't flinch. I don't second guess like I used to. I just rest. Into it? Not a bad way to end a long week, he says, voice low. Content. Your tea still sucks, I reply, grinning. You made it this time. Oh, right. He laughs, the sound warm and worn like a favorite record. We're a mess. I shrug. Maybe, but we're a mess together. We fall into a comfortable silence, watching the porch light cast soft gold rings around our feet. There's no need to fill every second with words. That's what I love about being with him. It's okay to just be. No pressure, no pretending. His hand finds mine without looking, fingers lacing through like he's done it 1,000 times, even though we're still new, still learning. I squeeze his hand, he squeezes back. It's a small thing, but to me, it feels like everything. I've been thinking, he says, his voice quieter now, about how easily I almost let this slip away, about how lucky I am that you didn't let me. I wasn't going to sit back and watch you bury your heart in excuses. I say you were brave, he says simply. So, were you? Eventually, I tease, nudging him. He turns to me. I mean it. I want to do this right. No half measures, no hiding. I search his eyes deep and earnest and maybe still a little afraid. But underneath it all, he's certain, he's sure, and that means everything. Okay, I say. So where do we start? He smiles, right here, with a promise. I raise an eyebrow. A promise. He nods, then shifts to face me fully, holding both my hands now. I promise to show up. For real, no walls. No pretending I don't feel what I feel. My throat tightens, unexpectedly. That's a big promise. I know, but I want to keep it. I swallow, then say softly, then I promise something too. He tilts his head, curious, waiting. I promise to be patient with you, with us. To not run just because I get scared. Because I will get scared, probably a lot. He smiles gently. Me too. Then we'll figure it out. Together, I say. He nods once, and that's it. No dramatic music. No fireworks. Just the kind of promise that settles deep in your bones and makes you believe in mornings again. I lean my head against his shoulder, and he rests his cheek against my hair. I used to think love had to be loud, I whisper, like yelling from rooftops. Movie moment loud. And now, he asks. Now I think maybe it's this. Quiet, certain, unshakable. Yeah, he says. Me too. We sit like that until the porch light flickers off automatically on a timer. The sudden darkness should feel abrupt, but instead, it feels honest, like the world is giving us privacy. He kisses the top of my head. I close my eyes and let the moment stretch, and in the quiet, I feel it, that slow, steady thrum of something beautiful beginning. Not perfect, not easy, but real. A journey. Ours. Just beginning.